Tango 1 at the top, we are at pop-up vehicle. 10-4, Tango 1, you have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're doing the Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
It's good. Go ahead, take it, man. Take the nootropic. Take the nootropic. It's like a tradition, a Tango 1 podcast tradition. The HQ, focus, the nootropics, wash it down with this
Negroni?
Negroni, a little gin to wash it down.
So this takes 3 a day. You take 3? Or just 1?
Live a little.
I took 3.
Okay, good.
Oh, okay.
All right, you're going to be into this. You're going to be wired. You're going to be wired.
I take 1 nootropic, but that's from the book I love, Bulletproof.
Now imagine how smart you're going to be.
I find it did help when I went off it for a couple months.
You find it did or did?
It did.
Oh, I find it does big time.
Yeah, I went off nootropics for a couple months and I felt like I wasn't. I actually remember going to Ashley one. My memory is, I feel like it's fading.
Man. Like
So
you've taken some blows to the head in hockey and stuff too, right? Like there's a lot to be said about that too.
Yeah, but back then, concussions weren't even a thing.
Well, I know that's why we need this stuff because nobody cared about concussions. You smash your head, they're just like you got. The term was you got your bell rung, get back out there, right?
I mean, I remember going, man, I can't see out of this eye, all the time. Didn't know that was a concussion.
Like I can't see out of my left eye.
Yeah, it would just go blurry, right? Like,
get back out there.
Never. Oh, okay, whatever. I got hit hard. That's fine.
Oh man.
It'd go away by the night. And you just.
Yeah. And then you're just fine.
Headache sometimes.
But then now at 43 years old, I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
Well, not that bad. But the nootropics can. They do help. I found it was just keep you sharper.
I think so too, man.
So.
Go to HQ's website. That was the not even meant to be an ad for nootropics for HQ Focus. Use code Tango15 there, friends of the website, our friends of Tango 1 podcast, obviously. So welcome to Tango 1 podcast today, everybody. You've already heard us chatting with my guy, Tyler Soulliere. Tyler's been a longtime friend. He's been one of the first guys and his wife, Ashley, to join the garage gym when we first opened, in our actual storefront.
Oh, yeah?
You were I think you were the first couple to come in. Your friend's a spinner, our original trainer.
Yeah.
Ty's a real estate entrepreneur. He also won the Canadian Real Estate Wealth Real Estate Investor of the Year award in 2015. He's also, as my wife would call him, the male model and a exceptional ball hockey player.
I was gonna put that in the notes too. I'm like,
oh, you had to know I was
gonna do it in no matter what, I guess.
So today, man, I want to talk to you about just a lot of the things that you are, like thinking different, living differently, travel, health, investments, retirements. Kind of see wherever it goes. Every time I sit down to talk to you, we always have a good conversation.
A lot in common.
Yeah, so man, let's start right there. So where did the Negronis? Let's introduce people in. You're the person who introduced me to these. I know they're popular nowadays, but what do we got in here? What's the mix?
Campari, vermouth, and gin.
That's it.
And
simple. A little bit sour, a little bit sweet.
Yeah,
it's a little bit bitter, I guess.
It's a bitter. Sour. People don't like bitter, so you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah, I think it's not bad.
It's better than going and getting your girly drinks at the bar. Right?
It does look good, but these cocktails are all the rage now, man. I don't know. I don't drink as much now, so I really enjoy actually making a proper drink.
A man drink, like with a Manhattan, right?
I think so.
Versus like rum and coke, but it's strong, so it hits you.
Right, you
after 2 of them.
Gin is the one thing that gets me fast. Faster than most things. So we'll see how this podcast goes. I don't know why. Yeah, gin and vodka. I think it's like those clear ones that get me messed up.
They're healthy.
They're healthy, especially when you throw
gin's the healthy one, right? Gin, vodka.
Tequila.
Yeah.
Tequila's clear though, and the tequila doesn't do the same thing to me. I love tequila. We had tequila the other night. You were not a big fan of that.
No,
that was a good bottle we poured out too.
Too many shots.
As a young adult. Young adolescent.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just a nice simple drink. Ashley loves it.
Yeah. That's part the battle, right? If you can have a drink with your wife at night.
Right. She's like, what do I want? She got hooked on them. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
Okay,
that's
man.
how that started.
That's how that
Need a
started.
strong drink. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially once you had the kids, right? It's like the kid goes to bed. It's like have one nice stiff drink, maybe two,
Yeah,
and then I start
just-
falling asleep on the couch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Long day. So.
All right, man. Let's talk about this. So
Yeah.
you started even before I knew you. So ever since I've known you, you've been into the real estate thing, and I know
Yeah.
you've really broadened your horizons since. We'll get into that, but you like I did not know about you, or I know, but I don't know any details about it. So I'm looking forward to hearing this. Is like years back, you had more of a traditional job.
Yeah.
And
I did.
all these things. Like, let's talk about that. Like, what
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you used to do?
So I worked at the family business. So I went to school for business in Northwood University, Michigan, and when I came back, you're just 24 years old, 23. Like, what am I gonna do? I applied for some jobs in the automotive industry, but it was always kind of, I was gonna join the family business one day, maybe take it over, right? So that was it. Kind of get my feet wet, started learning from the ropes from underneath my uncle, who's kind of like the president. I was like kind of like his admin. Him and my cousin were like the admin guys of the office. So it was a kind of like, that's what I always kind of learned what to do, was just kind of doing admin side, and that meant sitting behind a desk every day.
And doing what, like crunching numbers?
Crunching numbers, payroll, with, I was doing like logistics for a bit, duties. It was just all paperwork, right? Always sitting there behind a desk. And what changed one day, like 2 years in, when they gave me my pension package, and I still remember this, and it was a CD-ROM. Yeah, so everyone, and you put it in, and it would like, all right, if you put this much away every week from your paycheck, by 40 years from now, it'll be, here's, $1 million, $2 million. And then you kind of can play around with the numbers. And I remember going, oh my God, like I'm gonna have to work for 35, 40 more years to retire with like a good amount of money to like travel the world. But that also meant putting away like everything now to have that lifestyle when I'm older.
Right. That meant saving everything.
Now. So no life for 30 years,
Right.
and then retire and have a life.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and I was making good money. Like, after bonuses, like close to almost 6 figures, and it was just myself. Like, I didn't have a kid or a wife or anything, right? So I'm like, okay, I could do it, but it's, so it was kind of like a wake-up call. I don't know when I went home, and I just started like looking at different ways to make more income. Like literally down to like a buddy of mine I went to college with who was selling hot dogs on the beach in Myrtle Beach, and he was making killing. I'm like, man, should I open up a hot dog stand, like, as a side gig? So my first like big thing was like, me and my buddy started like an online, it's called Skill Sweep. It was like an online professional, like, where you put in what you're good at, say like you're a carpenter or handyman, and it was like a database where people would go and find, someone to cut your grass. So that was like my first like in business that I started to try to like, this could be the next Uber or something, right? Or Airbnb.
What's that place? Is it Monster?
There's
one of those ones that,
some that actually done well.
You're
Like Angie's List, almost like an
Okay.
Angie's List. So the idea was great, but it was like more money after more money to like get this bigger,
Get off the
and something I never knew how to really grow. So that was kind of a flop. So there goes my, I'm gonna get rich quick by being the next Airbnb or something, right? So then I started just researching, and real estate kept coming up, and it was just kind of a ebook that I downloaded that was about rent to owns. And I was like, this seems pretty simple. You buy a house and then you rent it out for 2 years, and then after 2 years they buy it from you. So that was kind of the big thing, and I ended up going to like a conference about it, and that was like eye opener. I was like, you could do very well investing in real estate, but I didn't know how. So I figured to learn the ropes, I'd become a realtor. So that's when I literally made a decision to quit my job, become a realtor, move to Toronto, and try to grow the real estate game, and then learn about investing.
So roughly how old are you?
I was 28.
Okay?
Yeah.
And now you got to tell the family too. It's not just like
Yeah,
it's
that
not
was,
just like a regular secure job. It's the family.
That was always like scary.
Yeah, same for me, man.
Yeah, so it was kind of
people think of policing as policing, but for me it was a family job.
I didn't know that.
Like my dad was there too, so it was like,
oh man, I didn't know.
like that's what my family knew. There was
Yeah,
something
so
here,
it's
and then me and
it
Danny.
was scary. They were fine with it. They were like, yeah, that's fine. They had sold the business, so they were kind of like, it wasn't really going to be a family business anymore.
Right.
So it made it a little easier, but it was still nerve wracking to go and walk into my uncle's office and, hey, I'm quitting. So, and but you know what? It was, I couldn't sit behind a desk for the rest of my life. There's no way. I'm like, there's got to be something else to have that lifestyle where I'm not working.
Yeah.
I
remember this. We had this conversation a little while ago where I put a post up and you commented something about it. Was like somebody told me like, hey, 13 more years to retirement. That's all you got to make. And I'm like, 13 years. I couldn't get that in. I was like,
right?
Fucking these last 18 years or 17 years have been like,
yeah.
They're wearing on me. You want me to go, 13 more years to have a retirement that's like, it's good. Don't get me wrong, the police, retirement plan. But like, there's also some, your pension, if something happens to me,
right.
The money doesn't go to my family forever.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's something to be said for just those little things that you and I talked about, because I know you're into traveling, is like,
yeah,
it was said to me, and COVID's really made this real, is like when you're young, you have, all the health and not necessarily the means, like the money to travel, right? And then when you're older, you got the means, but you don't have the health necessarily. Like this is the prime time.
I know.
And if we give that up, like what are you leaving here with?
I know.
Like you said, like when you're 65, you're going to travel the world. Not that there's anything wrong with that, man. My parents are there, and I want them to travel the world too. But there's certain places that are going to be easier to do when you're healthier and younger.
And it's a balance, right? You gotta. It's like, how do you do both?
Right.
And that's where you kind of look at, okay, what else can I do, right? So there's got to be other options. And I didn't know what else I would do. So when I learned about investing in real estate as maybe this could be a way to get that lifestyle.
So I didn't realize you were doing this in Toronto. You did real estate in Toronto first?
So I just was a realtor for years up there.
Oh, how was that? Hustle and bustle?
I sucked. Yeah, I was hot. But it was the best thing because it was legit cold calling and door knocking.
Oh.
So I've never been in sales. I've literally sat behind a desk and I didn't have to deal with employees or sell to anybody. So that was like the first door I knocked on, I thought I was going to crap myself. Like literally.
So you just go up to somebody's house?
Yeah, you pick a neighborhood, you call it, you farm a neighborhood, and this is going to be your neighborhood, and you're going to get your name out there with postcards and knocking on doors. And I just stumbled out my words, didn't know what to say. And
people see you coming and like lock.
Oh yeah, they'll lock. Yeah. So
but it was like trying to sell them religion, or like the people that are like get cheaper gas. Your gas bills. Like, have you ever had these guys? They show up and they're like, if you sign on with us, we could save you 10 cents on your gas bill.
Oh, I've had it for like my properties.
Everybody's locking down.
So it was a great experience because like so when I did move back to Windsor, like, and just having that experience of like not being afraid to talk to people, that's helped me tremendously now. Just having conversations with people, right? Like strangers or trying to get business, or like even in investing in real estate, like trying to find partners to buy properties with, right? So yeah, that was it was hard, but definitely worth it. Not something anyone does anymore, right? Like they don't put in the work.
Well, I think that everybody,
out of their comfort zone too, right?
I think everybody, like, it should be like I don't know if they could ever have a course in this, but communication, how important it is. But like we find that here, anybody who's working the service, I didn't work in the service industry. However, policing was a fucking service industry.
Yeah.
Like Danny, like working at Moxie's, or Steph worked at Moxie's, and like everybody's worked at bars and restaurants that comes to work here.
They're good.
Yeah.
They can talk.
Kiwi, like, they've all had this experience of like dealing with people from all areas of the world, and irate customers, good customers, cheap customers, they kind of like, I feel like everybody should have to do that, because like communication, like you said, talk about like growing your business and making sales, but even just like the little connections that come through the ability to communicate that lead to opportunities down the road that you might not even have known, right? It's just it's such a different comfort level when you walk in.
You don't get taught that.
And
No. I mean, I did a public speaking class in college, and that was like probably the closest I came, and that should be a prerequisite, I think, because you're out of your comfort zone. You have to talk to people, talk in front of people. Like the trainers here, like get up in front and talk to people is not easy.
Yeah, I know. Like I've
Right?
been like undersold here is the value of like people that have had to go on, have moved on to other jobs from here is like what they learned here by having to speak to, and not just that. Like when you were doing that, you were young, so you're knocking on like, you know,
I was
owns a
young.
house in Toronto. It's $1 million home.
I'm a kid.
They're 50
I look
something.
like a kid
You
too,
look
right?
like you still look like a kid, right? Like you knock on the door and you're like, "Hello, sir."
Yeah.
Like, and you know the same with the trainers here. They're 21. Like we got a new guy right now, Austin. He's 21 years old.
Very true.
And he's talking to a group of like
Older people.
you know,
It's not easy.
right? Like people who are like his mom and dad, and
Yeah,
like
but that's a good experience, and that should be
Absolutely.
like high school. Like, hey, you're gonna go do this as what do you call that when you not mentor, but
like, co-op.
co-op, something like that. Yeah, like that
Yes.
should be. Anyways, and it helps, but like no one's taught that. Like especially now, everything's just text, emails. Like you don't even talk to people anymore.
I know.
That could be a whole nother discussion, but you know what I mean. Like that's a lost skill
Yes.
that I think could help people out in the future. Just like nowadays, being an electrician or a plumber, those are like trades that people don't want to do that, and now they're like
right.
they're very good jobs to have.
Absolutely.
I mean, labor intensive.
I mean, I found during COVID that like I was kind of like at a loss because my strength was always like just get me in the door. Like I was
Okay.
always like just let me be in front of these people and I can like with trying to build the Tango One part.
Okay.
You know, we had the rowathon, which was
Yeah. I remember that.
remember it was huge, right?
Yeah.
And then that
Yeah.
opened some doors for some opportunities, and that business was starting to go.
Okay.
And then it was like no more
was-
in-person stuff, and I'm
Yes.
like,
Oh shit.
in person's like what I do best, right? Like so,
Yeah.
like I feel like that skill. Obviously, now you need to have that other skill, the tech skill, all
You
that
do.
stuff. But like I feel like good old communication and handshake and eye contact, all those
Yeah.
great things are
It's-
So, anyways, let's
real.
get back to it. So you're both are in Toronto,
Yeah.
and what? So you're flunking out there? You're just learning.
Yeah,
and,
it was tough being away from the family, and I'm for like Ashley, she was my girlfriend at the time, so we were, it was hard on us, so we decided to move back, and which was the best thing ever because it was like my network is in Windsor, and
Right.
that's the biggest thing is your network is your net worth type of thing. So for real estate, it was a good opportunity to kind of come back here, and I could meet with friends and family, and they know I'm a realtor, so that got my foot in the door and actually make some income. I literally didn't make a penny for a year, so it was like all my money I had saved was kind of just going in out the door, paying my cost and everything to live, right? So
and learning, right? Like
yeah, I'm learning. So I think I was doing conferences and like learning about investing in real estate, but I hadn't like pulled the trigger. So yeah, there was like no income. So coming back, I started selling some homes, but this was 2013, and the recession was still
just towards the end of it, right?
yeah, like it was. Windsor was still like, oh man, is it gonna drop again? That was still what people were saying, and I couldn't sell properties. Like you couldn't give them away. It was like there was no multiple offers. There was no like there was no bidding wars. Like
When
it was
Danny and I
just
first made the decision to go, we got together. We each had our own houses. She had one in like the Tecumseh, Gladstone area,
okay.
and we made the decision we're gonna move strictly into my house. 'Cause
Okay.
we had two houses. We're living in
Yeah.
one for 2 weeks, one in the other.
Right.
So we're gonna sell, and I mean, I think we had one offer come in.
Yeah.
And it was
after
like
what, like
we're
months?
taking and we're taking she was taking. I mean, obviously we were together at that point, but
Yeah.
like it was her. That was like our
Right.
cutoff was like, and it was like a $20,000 loss, and we actually like jumped at the opportunity
I know.
to take it.
I know.
Right, it was like now I'm like, oh my, I kicked myself in the ass for
to
leaving
keep
that
it,
house, right? Like, but at
You
the end
don't
of the
know.
day, like, yeah, you don't know, but I think people who are listening to this, if they're not in our age bracket, they don't remember that.
No, I mean, that was my first, like, I didn't even know Windsor's market was that bad.
Yeah,
Like, I was like, oh my God, you can't sell a home here. So, yeah, whereas but that was like the mindset for everything, even in Toronto. So I had a house in Windsor that I was trying to sell the whole time I was in Toronto. I couldn't sell it, like unless I took a huge loss.
right.
So, because it was like a house that I had built, one of like just like a little like standard home in South Windsor. So I had that house. I had bought the condo in Toronto, bought it. So I was literally like leveraged to the nines, and everyone's saying like the market's gonna crash. So I moved back to Windsor. I need capital to just have some money. So I sell my condo again at a loss because they're telling me condos are gonna crash. And so I keep taking losses on my homes, and nothing's selling. So I trying to like make money too by selling homes, get a commission check. So finally I just, I had sold my condo in Toronto, and I was like, well, why not buy something here? So when the property I was trying to sell for a client, I was like, I'll buy it. $48,000 for a duplex.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it needed like 30 grand in work. So I just hired a contractor, and I flipped it. I was like, oh, wow, it almost seems too easy, but like there was a lot of headaches. It was on Windsor Ave and Wyandotte. So
Especially
I remember
that was a rough neighborhood.
Yeah, it was a rough neighborhood, and I went there a couple of nights just to like get some work done myself, because like there was like stuff that the contractor hadn't done, and it was sold, and the realtor's calling, screaming at me like, hey, this needs to be fixed. And I would go there at night, like there's no lights on, right? Like it's just like it's a rough, the area.
Oh yeah.
So I was scared, and I'm sitting there like painting this wall at like 10 o'clock at night, trying to get it ready, and I'm like just checking my shoulder, walk up to my car at night. So but that was what I learned, was it's just all about the numbers. Like I thought real estate was like this, like Donald Trump. I remember like Googling like how to invest in real estate, and there's like software packages that were coming up on my feed, like $2,000 to buy this software package that will help you analyze real estate. But all it was like a mentor of mine kind of just showing me like, here's what you buy it for, here's what you renovate it for, here's what you sell for, there's your profit. I was like, oh, that's actually not that hard. Yeah. So it was just kind of like, it's all about the numbers. I'm like, okay, so like I'm not a handy guy at all, but I understand numbers. I like numbers. I like Excel. And that was just like, okay, I can do this. And that's how it started really in buying real estate. So just kind of got my, did well, and just kept building it from there.
So what I love about you, and you're always like this, and it feels like you're like this in everything. And so when we sold that house that we talked about taking that loss on, we knew we could rent in that neighborhood. And with me, like at that time, that's where I think I've shifted my brain. And I know you're always like this. Is like I saw all the negatives that would come with owning, like especially in that time, you weren't going to be renting to like allow you renting to people like us. Like then that neighborhood was not renting to. It was renting to a lot of my old police customers.
Okay, yeah. Right? No, I know that.
And all I was seeing was the headaches. The like this and that. Yep. I did not look at the opportunities and the possibilities. And I know like now you're the guy. Now I'm more that guy, but I feel like as long as I've known you, you're the guy who like. You're like, yeah, there's this and this negative, but you like really highlight the positives in every aspect of your life, which is like, I think it's just a great mindset. It's just a way more free way of living too, like in your heart. Like, right. Not to see the darkness and everything.
But it's hard not to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so,
and that comes with experience, right? Like you have to go through it to learn from it, to like, and we talked about this the other night, like the risk tolerance kind of thing. Like, okay, I've done that before. That's a bad tenant. Doesn't even faze me anymore, right? Like you've done it just like at your, any job you had, or even growing your business here. Like at first it's scary. You're like, oh my God, like I might be able to do this. And then you go through it once, and now you've got the experience. Hence why it's helped you grow in your other business now. Because you can share that, and so no, it's not.
Even letting the one out of 100 customers that comes in here that's a pain in the ass, like really affect you so much more than like the 99 that are like going great, right? Like it's the same thing. So
it is, but you can't be scared of that, taking a risk, like going through the headaches. Like there's negatives, but focus on the positives, right? Yeah. And that was but I get it. So like before I even bought my first rental, I was like you just said, tenants. I don't want tenants. So I flipped my first 2 properties. And then a friend's like, hey, why don't you refinance one of those? And I was like, well, I need the money. He's like, you'll get the money. They'll refinance it at this value. I didn't even know what a refinance was. Like I was that green to real estate. Like I had no upbringing on any of this, even like with a business background. I didn't even know what a mortgage was really, right? So it was kind of like, okay, what's refinance mean? And so that was one issue. And the other was like, tenants. And I'm like, I really don't want tenants, right? Like they're terrible, right? That's all everyone ever said. But to grow like my portfolio and grow the wealth, it was like, you need to keep these properties. So it was kind of like, well, let's focus on the positives. And okay, long term, this is going to be an asset that I'll own free and clear one day. And I just got to deal with tenants that, could be headaches, but eventually, you find good people and good renters, and minimize those headaches, right? It's all about just minimizing any headache, right?
Right.
So that you can have no headaches.
Ideally,
That's the goal, right? I mean, there's always going to be some, but like you learn, right? So that was kind of what led me to start buying more properties. So that first year, 2014, I bought my first one, ended 2013. I bought like 13 properties in 1 year, and it was all just through either flipping or refinancing them, and just using lots of debt. Like I went to like all my banks and I had lines of credits opened just to kind of like have extra capital. Just I don't even know what made me do it, honestly. Like I just went to like BMO, CIBC, TD. I had friends that say work there, and I'd be like, hey, can you get me a line of credit? Yeah, come on in, we'll get you one. And yeah, and my previous T4 showed I had income, so it kind of helped show that I had an income, even though as a realtor you don't really have much of an income. So like it was like luckily that I had opened those all up at that time, because then it was allowed me to like kept buying more properties. Mind you, carrying hundreds of $1,000s in debt was very scary when you're trying to like buy more properties and you're sitting there going, oh my god, like I don't know how I'm gonna pay this contractor or unless I sell this property. So like a lot of that first year was just learning and losing. Like I remember I gotta sell this fourplex or I'm not gonna be able to like put food on the table kind of thing, right? So there was a lot of like learning how to just cash is king and like tracking my numbers to make sure that I always have money in the bank, literally. So it was a busy year, but it like taught me to make sure I have cash flow. And
jump in or drown, right? Like that's
and that's why now like I'm like I just love numbers, and I'll just like I told you, like I projected out till I was like 90 years old. I like budgeted my whole life, literally. Like I have literally an Excel tab for every year and how much money I'll like make or not make.
How long did that take you?
Oh, I just always like it took me a good 3-4 months to build it. Yeah, because you're just literally with an Excel spreadsheet and everything's like formulated.
Right.
I have thousands of spreadsheets. Yeah, that's like literally one of my hobby. Like I'll just go.
My hobbies.
I'll just go in my office at night
so
around like 9 o'clock.
that.
The kid goes to bed. I'll go shower. 8:30. I go shower. I get up and Ashley, where are you gonna go and go formulate? She'll say, and I'll just go sit in my office for an hour and just I don't know, like hey, here's an investment. Like okay, what if I and just start plugging in numbers and see what's the best way to like make more money in a sense, really, right? Like, oh, here's an investment opportunity. Well, if it makes me, say investing in like a promissory note or something at like 15%. Oh, okay, this is a good way to like generate some income. Or do I buy a property and make no money for 5 years, but then in 5 years I can refinance, get that money back, and I have an asset. Like I just play around with just different investments and what would be the best return, and it'll just like plug in and like calculate everything to see if I have
the excitement on
the
your
money.
face as you talk about these things.
Oh, I love it.
More excited.
I'd sit there all night if I could, but it's like, okay, I just love it. I'll just like analyze real estate properties. Like, is this a good investment? And then you see what the numbers are, and it's just nice because people don't tell you how to plan for the future for your wealth, or other than, oh, you'll have a pension one day, or you'll have $1 million in the bank. Okay, but like, how do you get there, right? So
yeah,
I had an advisor once like, hey, I'll take your portfolio, I'll make you 8%. But my goal is always like, well, how do I, show me how to like retire early, and all they ever say is like, oh, we'll make you 8% or 10%. Like, they don't guide you, these advisors.
Right.
So I just did it. I learned on my own how to build my own like template. And I've literally tried to sell it to people.
And you're like making like, I think people like, we all label these things as assets, right? Like your home, like everybody tells you your home's your asset, but like if it's not really making you money, it's not exactly an asset. It's like all I do is pay into this thing. Then it's like, yes, it has value, but it doesn't have value unless I sell it and I need somewhere to live. Yeah. Right. So how can you make it an asset? You need to turn that thing into something that generates money. And I think that was like a big switch for me. It's like, I always like, I'm like, I got this many, dollars in assets. But fucking no, I have this many dollars in things I'm paying for,
Yeah.
like that I need, like a car.
You want that
you know,
passive income.
yeah. Which has made all the difference in the world through COVID was that diversification. And now you've even started to transfer out of like just real estate, right? Like I'm doing some crazy things.
I jumped 4 or 5 years ago into like diversifying, really, right? Like all my real estate was in Windsor. So I was like, well, what else is out there? Like the world's huge. And I started looking more in international real estate. So that kind of just researching different countries and the market's there, and you know, what's another economy that might be worth investing in, right? Just to like, well, you know, if something happens here, it might not affect like another country as much as here. So that was always kind of, I don't know why it became a goal of mine, but it was like probably the smart thing to do, just to kind of venture away from just one city, one market. Because Windsor crashed before.
Yeah.
Right? So it was like
crash again.
Yeah.
Right. So now, I mean, we're talking like Central South America.
Yeah.
You and I got a trip booked.
Yeah, I know. We got to get down
coming
there.
as security.
Yeah, Colombia. So I ventured to Colombia. As much as research I did on international, Colombia just kept coming back as like the best market to invest in, and everyone is always like, first thing everyone says, "Oh, you're going down there to cocaine cartels," right? I'm like, that was like 30 years ago. Right, like Colombia is turned its corner. It's like a grown economy. I think it was one of the fastest growing economies in the world last year.
Was it really? I'm telling you, of all the places I've traveled, I've done a lot of Central South America. Danny and I've told you this before. People who are listening, Colombia, unbelievable. Yeah. Sure, there's still some certain parts in the middle of the country that but what's the difference if you go to Florida? You and I have been to Florida a million times. There's parts of Florida that you probably should not go to. Right, like that exists everywhere you go. So, but people like when you're thinking South America, and you think of Pablo, and you know, what they call him, El Chapo? No, that's El Chapo's in Mexico.
Pablo Escobar. I don't know what they call him.
The boss. It's the Spanish word for boss. It's
on
all the T-shirts there.
I can't even think.
Anyways,
of it.
you know, they thinking of that, but that country, I had the best time there and was treated amazing. Same in Brazil, Panama, where I know you're involved with. I've walked the streets of these countries with a backpack and a blonde girl, like, you know, that's wearing like short shorts and a tank top, like, and we're fine, you know, like, and you still need to have your head on a swivel just like you should everywhere, but
everywhere, exactly, right? Yeah, but not everyone out there is the bad,
right? Exactly.
People are just setting their mindset of like certain areas or certain places, and hence why a lot of people don't travel either, right? Like it's and it is scary, like traveling to other countries. Yeah, people get comfortable. They like the normal life.
Yeah, I mean, getting out of the car and not being able to speak the language or
is scary, right?
Get directions, or you feel like people are taking advantage of you. But like, you've traveled so many places, and the reality of, you know, from my police history is like 1% of the world is criminals. Right.
I know, right?
And less than 1% of that 1%. I mean, less than that of that 1% are actually violent criminals. Right. Yeah. So most are petty theft. Right. And you're looking at who are looking to take advantage of situations. So one, if you don't put yourself in a situation to be taken advantage of, right? You know, like the opportunity of being like subject to a violent crime as a random person exists anywhere, anytime.
And usually traveling, I'm not really worried about being the crime. It's more just the awkwardness of, I can't speak this language. I don't know where I'm going. It's scary, right? Like you're literally standing in a subway and you can't read the signs on the subway and you have no idea where like it's freaky, right? Yeah. Like, and then you just get off at a subway, and luckily we have Google Maps, but first time I went to Tokyo, I literally was the tourist with 3 maps in my hand trying to like, you probably did the same thing. Like it's scary, but you know, those life experiences like help get you out of your comfort zone for anything, really, right? Like it just translates. You don't know it's translating and helping you, but like that stuff helps when you come back and, you know, invest in real estate or take a risk on another investment, right? Like, so you gotta do your homework on like anything. You don't just dive in, but
so top place you've traveled?
Barcelona.
Love
it. Yeah.
My uncle just got back from Spain, and they are like,
we
can't stop talking about it.
Yeah, we did a 3-week, like the whole Spain, like drove around Spain. And you're like, you're scared. You're like, well, what's outside of Barcelona? Like, all you know is, well, it's it's Europe. Like it could be poor, and it's like driving the 401, the highways.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah,
that's
like,
what Brazil was like. It was
it's like,
crazy.
oh my god, like,
Brazil. I'm like,
yeah,
it
you just
looks
don't
just
know.
like a nicer version of the 401.
Yeah,
You know?
so this is nice, and yeah, so Barcelona, 100%.
Yeah?
I live there. Like I get real estate emails still.
From there.
Oh yeah,
So
that's like the one goal is to have a property there. So Colombia, I got one, even though I've never even been there. That was just more an investment, like just to get kind of, the experience of buying in another country was like a nightmare. Like especially Colombia was like just lawyers, accountants, all these like getting the money into the country is like a headache. You have to
Really?
like a brokerage account. You have to like send literally like every piece of document you ever have, fingerprints. Yeah, they're very strict on getting money into the country.
Well, that makes you feel better though about investing.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're just the guy's like,
It
hey,
does.
just email me. Email me $100,000. Here you go.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it'll be fine.
So that
Yeah.
was a very good learning experience, and it's a headache to deal with that. Like I get it. Like it's anything hard is, people don't want to do it, right? So it's what's that saying? Like
Yeah.
there's a saying out there that I can't think of it right now, but if
Well,
it was easy, everyone would do it.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I even say that about
Yeah.
travel. I'm like, every place worth going, you should have to take more than one mode. Like, you should take more than one airplane to get there. You know
That's
what I mean?
cool. That's
like,
cool.
like I think I like to fly in. We fly into like Panama, then you take a bus, then you take a car,
That's
then you
neat.
do this. Like, I
That's
love
cool.
that kind of travel, and I know you do too.
Oh, I do.
What are some of these other like things that you've really started to branch out? You're like, when I like you
Yeah, I know.
tell me stuff, you're like, oh, I invested. I'm like, what? Like,
So the
I don't even
first-
know how you hear about these
This
things.
was
It's
the
like,
first investment. My first international investment was a truffle farm in Spain. Legit, and it was just
what the fuck is a truffle? Anyway, is it like a flower? Like
a mushroom.
put truffle
It's in the
oil
ground.
Everywhere
Yeah.
I went this weekend, they
So
had
like,
truffle oil.
if you Google it, like pigs are usually what would find truffles,
Okay.
but the pigs would eat them. So now they're like this farmer, I guess you would call him, developer of the truffle farm in Spain. They use dogs, and he's like, come up with a better way to like grow the truffles faster. So like, you get a lot of information on these type of investments, but like it's all on you to finally say, yeah, I'm going to do this or I'm not, right? And then you look at the potential returns, and then you obviously weigh the risk. Like it could be a flop and you're out a lot of money, or you could do really well, and this is like, on your path to retiring earlier or retiring with a better life, right? So that was kind of how I weigh it. Like you can only do so much due diligence before you finally just trust your
shit
gut
or
and
get
go
off
with
the
it.
toilet,
Yeah.
right?
So that was like a big investment for me, but and that was only able to like venture outside of that through real estate, really, right? Like because it was like real estate did really well as the properties appreciated. I was refinancing, but I didn't want to keep plowing money back into real estate. Like I was like, I'd like to just see if I have another way to generate a passive income than just real estate. So that kind of was something that caught my eye. Talked to other people that had done it. Talked to the actual like president of the company, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna wire you this much money, and it takes a couple of years for the truffles to actually grow. So so I want to get over there, but then COVID hit, so I haven't been able even to like go and see my trees.
So are they what are they flourishing now? Like what is it?
So I think like by year 3 is when they actually start to bloom, I guess. There was a lot of science behind it, but like
cool.
all I care about is like the income and the numbers, right? So I think this year I should finally receive like a check. But it's like a turnkey like investment. So they farm it, they sell it, they distribute it. Like I'm not a farmer. Like I've always been trying to be like very hands off with any investment that I do. That's always was my goal. Like, can I do this from Florida or backpacking or anything where all I need is a phone, right? So everything I've ever tried to do like was just try to be hands off, so I could just do it from anywhere. So that was why this kind of intrigued me, right? Like I don't have to get in the farming business, but I could venture outside of real estate and invest. And
I would like to see Tyler on the farm. That would be a good like YouTube
been on the
series.
farm, no.
That would be a good
No,
YouTube
no,
series.
man.
You're like digging
No.
up the truffles.
Well,
You and Ashley.
My family's from Europe. We were on farms.
We're on
no,
farms.
no,
Can't see.
not
No,
for me.
not gonna happen. Not gonna
I'm not
happen.
going. Hell no, man. No. So that was the first big investment that I did.
Yeah, so you've like obviously you've done a ton of like learning and reading. You're always reading. You're always telling me like you're always actually sending me articles about stuff, and you're one of the few people that always answers my newsletter. I appreciate that.
Sometimes,
so much.
yeah.
You're
Yeah,
like,
okay, it's all of
you're
them.
like good one, good one. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
One. So I always like that, but
I know how it feels on the other end when no one responds to you.
yeah.
So, but you know,
All you see is the unsubscribes on MailChimp.
I hate those.
Motherfuckers make me crazy. I'm like, this guy unsubscribed. What do you unsubscribe for?
Isn't it? It sucks.
Especially when I know I'm like, you need this article that I just wrote. I know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you know
unsubscribing from
right?
Blast email, man. You need Blast. Bro,
Unsubscribes are bad, and then like comments on Facebook,
Right.
they get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you try not to let it get to you. Like I'm
getting
sure you've
better.
had a lot.
I'm
Like
getting-
I only had about a year of that life of social media, and
Yeah.
that was hard, man. Yeah, so
I didn't have
kudos to
social
you.
media till this gym, and then now having it, it's
Right.
like, and then especially now I've really kind of put myself out there with
Yeah,
a lot
you
of
do.
stuff too. So like, you
It's
know,
hard, man.
when you put something that's super emotional to you, you're gonna always spark something that's very emotional
That's
on
true.
the good or the bad
Yeah,
with
yes.
other people, right? And like generally it's the bad that say something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just like
Yeah.
customer service. You got 150 people that love the place. A couple tell you that,
Yeah.
but like the people that don't, oh man, do they tell you? Right? It's the same thing on Facebook
It's hard,
and
man.
Instagram.
It's not easy to like take that criticism.
Yeah,
Like-
and then in terms of sales, like with the MailChimp and the mailing
Yeah.
list and that, it's like you just got to tell yourself it's like that one person that you help that you're talking to. It's not.
Yeah, that's a good
It's
point.
not the
That is
the 20
true.
people that
Yeah,
don't want
you-
to listen to you. Then like unsubscribe. That's fine. Like, but maybe that one person who
Yeah,
reaches
you make
back
it sound like
is
it's so easy to just roll off your shoulder, but it's
it
but
gets easier. You got to say right when you first start knocking
You're
on
just trying to help
doors,
people,
like,
yeah.
you know, and like the people that reject you at the start.
Yeah, I guess
hurt
you
more
have
than
to
it did
tell
after.
yourself you're just trying to help people, and
Right.
if they don't want to listen, you're right. But it's not easier said than done, right?
True, very true. And it's still a weakness of mine is like not letting that go, and you're like burning
Oh, yeah.
inside about it. Like, you know, that
It
one I was
takes
telling
about
you
an
about.
hour to like get over it,
Yeah.
and then you know something else, but it's not easy. Like you got to think that's hard for a lot of people. Like they don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want the criticism. Like they just
Right.
yeah, like, it's
Big
scary.
time.
Yeah, social media it makes it very easy to criticize these days.
Yeah. So you're saying like about thinking differently, living differently, and you are doing it. What is like, you know, as a father now, like how do you see yourself implementing this, like think differently, live differently,
Trying to.
get an education? Like my
Yeah.
hardship right now is like I do want them to think and live differently, and I think they are we're doing a good job of that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, at some point you probably need that stamp, that like piece of paper that goes on your wall, which I don't have.
Yeah.
But like that
Yeah.
degree or whatever it
Do
is.
you
like,
think so? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
What do
know.
you think?
I think we're
you're
getting
still
away from
early
that
on
stamp.
Yeah.
I mean, Elon Musk is hiring people without even degrees these days, right? So like he sees you don't need that stamp. I mean, I went to grad school. I always attributed school now as like working out, right? It's just kind of like keeping your mind in shape. Are you applying everything you learned? No, not at all, right? It's just
like zero.
So I don't think school's like bad for you. Like it's good to. I think you should be doing something. Is it school sitting behind a desk? No, I don't think it has to be, right? Like it could be traveling the world or homeschooling your kids, right? Like as long as they're learning, right? That's the way I see it.
Right.
Just like working out. Like if you stop working out,
Right. It doesn't have to be in a gym.
it doesn't have to be a
trainer.
gym. Just do something, right?
just-
So yeah, I think it's just such a norm that everyone like as a father, like you put your kid in school and they're gonna play the sports in the same city, and that's what everyone's done. Like not everyone, but like that's just what
Yes, but that's
the
what,
majority does. And yeah, it's just my best experiences were traveling and just seeing what else is out there in the world, right? And it just opens your eyes up. And then reading, like, right, like just
yeah.
like now you have podcasts, you have YouTube, like you've talked to some people and they're like, you can learn anything on YouTube nowadays. Like you start to wonder, like, are people gonna go to school? Like,
Oh, dude, that Mike DeFazio kid, Herb that we've had in here. I call him kid. He's like 20. He's like 28, but
he's like, yeah,
but like, but dude, this guy's like, you know, he's got all these properties. He's doing so well from
Yeah.
literally everything he learned is off of YouTube.
that's, I mean,
like him in books too, but
Yeah.
like YouTube is the prime like
Yeah.
teacher of him, and then YouTube led him to these books. It's pretty crazy to hear him talk, and I'm like, wow, man, this is like a world that I didn't really know existed.
Yeah,
And
it's changing, right? I mean, there's just so much more information. Back when you and I were in school, you went to the library.
yeah,
Right? Like, Facebook just came out when I was a junior in college.
yeah,
Like, the internet, Google, like, that was not how we, like, studied. It was, like, old school. So now you have so much more information. Like, our kids are going to grow up with this. And I think I would love to still send my kid to school, but why can't I send him to school in China?
right.
Why does he got to go to University of Windsor? Because I live in Windsor, right?
Maybe not China. It wasn't China the one country that you said that you don't want to go back?
No, but I'm just saying, like, when
I heard you talking
when I
about
was in
China.
school, I had a chance to backpack or like go to do a term in China.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it because it just was like, oh my god, that's like scary.
Right.
Like, and my family, they weren't big travelers, so they never really like pushed me. Like, you don't want to push your kid, I get it, but you maybe give them a little like tap.
Little nudge.
Like, hey, like, that's a really good opportunity. And with my experiences now, I would say you should do this. Like, go learn another culture, learn another language, right? Like, so that's kind of why I'm starting to, like, with just the experiences we've had in life and traveling and reading, and yeah, like, give that opportunity to your kid and
Right.
open, like, just another avenue. Like, I never knew when I went away to school, like, that wasn't even on my mind ever. Like, my parents, like, last minute were like, well, why don't you go to this school in the States? They have a good automotive program. Okay, like, unless someone tells you something, you wouldn't do it. So
Right.
now I think, yeah, there's so much more opportunity that there's going to be a lot different ways to learn. So as a father, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, there's going to be so many opportunities. Maybe you're going to have to, like, rein your kid in.
Yeah,
Right?
I
Like,
think it's about exposing them to just as many things. Like I know,
Yeah.
like for me, the traveling was like, my parents, we traveled all around North America. We drove everywhere.
Oh, yeah?
But like when we would go somewhere and we'd stay in a campground or a hotel, I'd like see the mountain, and I'm like, I want to go climb that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when I started
Yeah.
traveling and I started getting outside and going to like Mexico to the all inclusive.
That's cool. Yeah.
You know, for me it was like, all right, this is cool. This has been fun for a
But
day
that's
or
it.
two.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
like, all right, like,
I agree.
what's around the corner there? You know,
Yeah.
and like get
But if you don't
outside.
have-
I mean, remember Cuba? I
Yeah.
get to Cuba and I'm just like, I was booked at this resort for 2 weeks, and I end up like leaving after 2 days
Really?
and just backpacking Cuba for like the whole
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
right? And people are like, "Are you insane?"
Right.
And then I'm like,
You did
that
that
was
on
like,
your
that was
own?
like 2000, and then after that I was like, never a resort again. Like,
Did you do that on your own?
yeah.
That's
well, I
pretty-
had a girlfriend at the time
Okay.
with me, but like, you know, that's it. We just took off, and like I've never really gone back to the resort. Now, like I hear
I
people say
agree.
you're going to all inclusives, and I'm like, you know what? I appreciate the
They're fun.
beach. It's beautiful. There's drinks and all these things.
Yeah.
However, like you don't, other than like the language people are speaking to you,
Yeah.
you don't really know. In the theme night, you don't really know where you are.
No.
Because you could just be planted in Jamaica, Mexico, that right?
They're all
Like,
the same.
when you get out of those
I
resorts
know.
and you go see those countries, you'll never want to be back in a resort because you're actually like living the culture
I
and
know.
the food and like,
Yeah.
you know, the real like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
I know, I 100%
they're like, oh,
agree.
what do you mean you don't drink Corona here in this
Yeah.
country? I can't believe that. They're like, no, nobody drinks that shit, right? Like, you know, like,
Yeah, but like if you've never had those experiences, you maybe wouldn't pass those on to your kids either, right?
Right, exactly.
So I never had those experiences ever. It was always resorts.
yeah,
So when I think, yeah, with my wife now, it was like, let's not go to resort. Let's
Right.
go to, I think Barcelona was the first, and just, I was like, this never going back to resort.
and kind of how I've seen with my kids being homeschooled is that like if we could make a metaphor between traveling to a resort and wanting to see what was around it,
Right.
like being at the base camp of a mountain and wanting to hike the trail.
Okay, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
for me is like
Like
with
a
these
resort,
kids in
yeah.
school, like in their homeschooling, it's like introducing them to this little subject
Okay.
and then watch how they want to like find out what's on the other side. of
Okay.
it. Like they're like,
Yeah.
oh, planets. Or you saw my kid with the countries, right?
No, that was crazy.
He drew 80
That was
countries
sick.
on flags for Tyler.
Yeah.
Tyler's over and he like
killed
quizzed
me.
them and he's like knows. I thought he had it written on the back, but he literally
No,
knows
he knew
every
them all.
country's flag. So like that came from just like we're talking about maps and different flags from the
Okay.
Olympics.
Okay. Oh,
And then
okay.
it's like, then he's just like, where can I go with this,
Yeah.
right? So you introduce your kid, you know, you introduce Castor to something, and it's like, watch him just, or he's like, that's boring. Right, because
Like
like I
geography
felt like when I
class,
was in
but it's-
school, it was like they'd hand me something, you're like, that's boring.
Yeah.
But I have to keep going on it, and I'd
know.
just be like learning nothing and dead to it.
Yeah.
Whereas like when we put those subjects in front of them now at homeschooling, that's boring. Okay, we pass that on. Like, let's find something that's gonna light your fire.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see, man.
That was really neat, and that's like your geography class in high school. I hated it,
Yeah.
but like that was fun. I'm playing with your kid, and I'm like, this is actually fun. Give me another flag.
Yeah, and it's weird, but you like I was always like history was always one of my favorite ones,
Oh, yeah?
which was weird because it doesn't seem like that would be, but you know,
History is neat.
yeah,
Like when you travel to other countries, you like
Yeah.
want to learn more about the country.
yeah. Even in Niagara
Yeah.
this weekend, Niagara on the lake, there it was like the War of 1812 was there, and they
Oh,
burned
yeah.
down that whole town, and like you're like reading these. I'm
That's
like I
kinda
find
neat.
myself like I'm reading the plaques,
You
right?
gotta read the
and now I'm
plaques.
like in my room googling this shit. I'm like, what's happening to me?
So you're the old guy reading the
I
plaques.
am. I'm just the only difference between me and my dad is the neck tattoo, I think.
Pretty much, yeah. That's too funny. I found myself doing the same thing, so that's why we get along. We're always very similar mindsets these days. Like, just yeah, that's why I like it.
So when it comes to like education, you talked about YouTube and courses and stuff. Book recommendation for anybody listening, like if they wanted to kind of like grow their mindset or anything that kind of just sparked you or would spark me.
Yeah, the best one was always, I mean, it's more health related, was Bulletproof. I mean, until I read that book, I didn't realize I didn't really take good care of myself, right? You gotta be healthy. So reading that book opened my eyes up to like everything from like vitamins to sleep to exercise. Obviously I've always worked out, but like that was I think I'm a Nazi when it comes to sleep nowadays. Like that is like so important. Like the Oura Ring, right? I was telling you about that.
Yes.
Yeah, get one of these, and I wish I had something like this, or even just knew how to be better 15 years ago, right? Like even just playing hockey. Like you finish a hockey game, you usually go out drinking. Like
Yeah.
we did not take care of ourselves, right? So now as I got older, working, it's like mental clarity. Like how can I be smarter, right? So it's basically taking care of yourself more. And I found like sleep. Like last night I had a late night and I could just feel it. Like I'm
Late
not,
night. How late?
11 o'clock.
I know. That's what I was saying. Late night. Like I was at Pateo.
You know what I
last
mean?
week, and I'm like, oh, I was a late night. I was,
Like-
I was home in bed at 11:30.
But like if you're on a routine
Yes.
and you're like getting your 2 hours of deep sleep, like I feel
Huge
like $1 million
difference.
bucks. Like I don't need a coffee.
Huge difference, man. I'm
Right?
telling you, when I get up most days at like 4ish, and the difference between going to bed at 9 and going to bed at 10
Yeah,
is much more significant than an hour,
yeah, I know.
and it has to do with that deep quality of sleep,
Circadian rhythm,
right?
all that
The
stuff. I know.
circadian rhythm, and like when I'm coming in here at 4 after going to bed at 10 or 10:30, it's like I am like dying for coffee.
Yeah.
Like I'm having trouble focusing on like. All I do is count reps for a living, right? But like
Yeah.
I'm having trouble doing
You're
that
just
like
not
one part of my
focused.
job,
Yeah.
whereas like that 1 extra hour of sleep is
Yeah, I've tried to preach to a couple people all the sleep thing, and everyone's like, so even having a drink, like I
Yeah.
don't have drinks at like, unless Saturday night maybe. Like,
yeah.
well, no, one doesn't affect me. I'm like, it affects you.
It
Like
does.
your heart rate goes through the roof.
It does.
You don't get that deep sleep. You might have, like everyone thinks you'll drink, you'll sleep better, but you don't.
No,
So
you don't.
so I don't know. That was always kind of like a wake up call after I read that book, was like I need to start like looking at more than just going to the gym. Like
Right.
there's other aspects of like life, and then just trying to have that edge on people. I mean, you're almost in competition with everybody, right? Like what can you do to get a leg up on people? Read, be healthier.
Yeah, it's like about adding like good habits at this
Yeah.
point in my life. Like, don't just get rid of bad ones and replace them with a good one.
Yeah.
And like for me, it's like those little things: sleep, reading,
Yeah.
because those like check more than one box.
Right.
Like when you're reading, like you're bettering yourself, but you're also like checking out of this world
Mm-hmm.
for a little bit and off the digital, and like it's not always self-growth books for me anymore. It's like
No.
I find myself reading about things that I used to read about, which was like adventure, like like which sparks me to like want to go and hike and do these things.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, where it's like, and what does that
But it
do?
sparks something in
that
your
sparks
mind,
me to
right?
want to do that.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sparks me to really want to focus on the
Yeah.
business and on this, so I can have
Yeah,
the
I know.
funds to do that. It's cyclical, and then going outside is another big one.
Yeah.
Getting outside in that sun, and getting
Oh, vitamin D.
and
We're
kicking
huge
booze,
on vitamin
kicking
D.
booze, man. I am like it like this is a rare occasion
No, I
in
know.
the middle of the day these days, and even like on a Saturday night, I might have a couple of drinks these days, but very rarely will I get like how we used to get.
No, I know, because it sets you back. So
sets me back for days.
Yeah. So yeah, we're big on the vitamin D. I got the infrared lights in a room that I'll do that every day.
Yeah.
The Juve. That's
nice.
Yeah.
I want to get a sauna.
The infrared sauna was next on my list. So yeah, just the health aspect of it, and just educating yourself. Like, I figure I said this like a long time ago in the business. I'm like, hey, what's everyone doing after 5 o'clock when they're done work? Like, most people just watch TV, right? When I was working my full-time job, I went home and I was writing business plans. I remember texting Ashley. We were just started dating on a Friday night, and she was downtown, and I was writing a business plan to open a bar because that was one of my dreams. Literally, I still have the business plan.
Really?
Yeah, it was going to be called Straight Up.
That was my first failed business.
Yeah? I never did it, but...
Oh, big mistake.
Where was this?
It's called the Well House. It was the old Lefties when it was on Chatham.
Yeah.
We bought into that place, and that did not work out well.
But it was a good experience.
Yeah, I learned tons from it. Honestly,
exactly.
Man, that's helped me for this.
You have to fail, right?
Yeah, you have to fail, and you have to learn, and you know, like there's some things that could have gone differently there, and
you learn every experience, like
right, and you have to take ownership of your part of that. Like, nobody forced me to make that investment. So like to blame another investor or partner is not the right. Like, you made the decision to go in there. Yeah. And you know, what could you have done better? And I think that's helped me huge on there. So glad I staying out of the bar industry though.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't get into it, because all I remember was
seems way cooler until you're in there. And it sure was cool the first opening night. Yeah. Slinging drinks and like I owned the place, you know? Like, until I got kind of realized that, like, you know, when I gave out all those drinks, that was that's paid for by me.
Yeah. I didn't do it because I've always had the mantra with, like, just how can I be hands off? So it was like, how am I gonna run a bar and not be there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where I gotta improve, because I am very like, I want to be in there and like you know, I like
to a point,
right? Where this property investment stuff's kind of like helped me learn. Or this is
off.
Way cooler. When I'm like
I jumped hands off. I managed all my properties up to like 13 doors, I think. And then I was like, this is a nightmare. I'm like, I got in this to be hands off. I'm not hands off. And here I am, nickel and diamond, because I don't want to hire a property manager. And I hired a property manager after like 2 months. I told him like over a year I'd transition. After 2 months, I was like, take them all. It was the best thing I ever did. Yeah, I would just try. How can I just not be around? Like, just work from anywhere. So, yeah. So that was why I didn't do the bar business, and that's why I've just always like tried to do businesses and investments where I don't have to be there physically, right? Right. Yeah. So I can be with. The whole reason I thought like that was like, okay, if I'm gonna have a kid one day, when I started investing, I was 29. I want to be home. Like, I don't want to be gone as a realtor, right? Like, some of these guys are gone 68 hours a week.
Yeah,
like
that job is pretty wild.
It's cutthroat, right? Like, you're busy,
and in terms of like, you need to do this now, especially in this.
It's like so I was like, man, like, I need another, and that was goes back to like, how many income streams do you want? I've always wanted more, so I was like, I'll have my real estate commissions, I'll have my real estate, and eventually, hopefully, the supplements, right?
What is it? 7? Didn't they say 7 is?
Man, I've got way more than 7 now. So yeah, you just keep finding different opportunities. I'm always looking like for the next project, right? So I'm already looking for the next project.
Yeah, we're talking about it.
We're talking about
more to come. More to come.
Yeah,
Danny's gonna hear this and be like, "What did you do?"
Why not? I mean, you start to get good at growing businesses, just like with your consulting. You're starting to like get good at it, right? So you can. Yeah. It's like it becomes a template for every business, for every investment you make. It's just you've already know what to do, so it gets easier and easier, right?
Yeah, and the only way to do that is to dive in, man. Dive in and learn to swim. That's my biggest thing. It's not, you know, you can be spoon-fed all you want, but that doesn't make you very strong. It's like when you dive in, you learn so much more. That's it. Like, that's it. So yeah, if you guys if people did want to reach out to you or whatever, I don't know if you take like.
Yeah, I'm not really.
Just forget it. I
don't really have like a business anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you don't really like. Yeah, you're not
just me. Yeah, and just. But I people touch base with me. They'll either text me or email me like. And just like, hey, you don't mind to grab a coffee? I always grab coffee with people just to share the wealth as much as I can. Yeah, like any little. I mean, that's the best thing about meeting with people. Like, is you learn something, right? And then you meet with people that have done something, and you want to do it too, right? So you're like, oh, I can do that. Yeah. So if I can network with somebody, he gets motivated, or she. Yeah, why not? So yeah, I guess email.
So if that's the case, hit me up and I'll connect you with Tyler. I'll vet. I'll be the vetter for him since he doesn't go much on the Instagram. This episode of the Tango One Podcast is brought to you by Murray Insurance. They are owned by Kingsville OGs, Ian and Karen Murray. Their Desjardins Insurance Agency is #1 ranked in Ontario, Southwestern Ontario. They're experts in their industry. They have the best customer service, including a claims concierge service, which is exclusive to their clients, and they focus on community, which is what we love best about them. They're a one-stop shop for everything to protect you, your family, and your assets with the best policies in the industry. If you want to get a hold of them, give their team a shout. Let them know that I sent you at 519-733-2331, or you can reach it at Team Murray Insurance on Instagram and Facebook. So that's it for the ads for today. We got those all in. Irv, did we miss anything? So speaking of not being able to drink anymore, we had St. Patrick's Day. Oh, 10,000, right. We'll get that. Thank you. St. Patrick's Day, we had some drinks in here, and Irv, we slipped him a couple whiskeys over there. This guy was hungover for 2 days.
I listened to the podcast, actually. With you and Kyle. Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day almost killed me, but I went all day. Irv went for like literally 35 minutes during the guys had 2 drinks. The old man was hurting. But also, if you guys are looking, you would love this stuff. 10,000. I got a t-shirt underneath. This is the best sports performance gear. It destroys Lululemon, man. Destroys Under Armour. And it's made for men by men. Okay, 10,000. Go to their clothing company, and you can use code TANGO15 to save. I suggest the tactical pants, but they're constantly out of stock because they're so popular. But the shorts, the t-shirts are the best gym stuff I've ever had. So I think that's about a wrap on this podcast, man. Thanks for coming in. Cheers to the Negroni. Maybe we could have one more before you go off set.
Why not, eh?
So cheers, guys. Thanks for coming on the Tango One Podcast. Please subscribe. Let people know about us. And we want you just to do more and be more. Good luck.
Now's the time to do more and be more.